Welcome to episode 152 of the Muck Podcast, a member of the Odd Pods Media Network. Listen in as we discuss the dark and sometimes weird true stories in American politics. I'm Tina Hanamiya.
And I'm Hillary Doherty.
Hillary!
Girl.
Ooh, it's Friday Night Live.
Friday night! This whole, you know what? Tina said it seems like it's been forever since we saw each other. I'm like, we literally saw each other. Well, first of all, we saw each other last night.
We did,
but we
it
recorded
was
on Sunday.
It wasn't even.
Encounter. Yeah, it was a brief account. You were coming off the parade float.
Oh, God. And then, okay, so then we do the parade, and then Kate is like, you know, Chip LaMarca was in the parade. Or somebody said it. And I was like, what? I feel disgusting that I shared a space with him.
I literally
Did you
saw
see
his
it?
face. No, not at the parade. On Facebook today. Something came up that he was serving breakfast at this homeless shelter this morning. And I was like, oh, why is this in my feed? Fuck, like, why am I on Facebook? I don't understand what I'm still doing there. I don't like it. I don't want to be there. I don't give a fuck. I don't care. I want off of Facebook. I think, and by the way, I think the Muck could survive without Facebook. Like, we don't need to be on there.
Well, I know. Well,
fuck it.
I feel like, though, I looked recently, and
that's
I was
the reason
we
I go.
got so many views.
I only go on, I know.
It's really gone up. So I'm like, but I really lately have only been like posting Muck stuff. Like, I don't even, and then I'll like a couple things and move on with my life. Ugh. Oh, and one thing that was lovely is our friend Nancy.
Nancy! That bitch! She announced she's running for Coconut Creek Commission.
I'm so excited for her.
Oh my God.
She was, I feel like, made.
Oh, yeah.
Made for this. She was made
I'm
for
getting out there.
This.
Mark my words, Nancy. I know you listen. I will be out there. I've already given her money today, so I will definitely. I'll definitely be out there canvassing for her. And it's also because it's a short. It's a special session. It happens in March, so we won't have that many Saturdays to have to go.
Yeah, but we
like,
gotta
usually
do it.
when
we
it's like
a
primary general, it's like 6 or 7 months. You're like, oh my God, this is never gonna end. This is short and sweet, and we can just hammer it out and get her
and I have
in there.
Some time over winter break. I can do.
There you go.
Some days. Yeah.
Nice. Yay, Nancy. Well, I also wanted to talk about. I had 2 things to bring up, but one of them was that I don't know if you saw this yesterday. But one Terri Rizzo has stepped down from the Democratic Party in Palm Beach County.
I did not see this.
Yeah.
Holiday.
And one of the things that she said was, her quote was, she's following in the footsteps, this is a quote, of one of her sheroes.
Oh no. Please
Speaker
don't say,
Nancy
I was going to
Pelosi.
say, please don't say Nancy Pelosi.
Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
Oh, so she realized
she's getting out of the way. She's getting out of the way. She's like, it's time for new blood and time to pass the baton, basically. Finally. Is what she says.
Who is she setting up for this?
Okay, guess who?
Is it a family member?
No.
Oh, thank God.
I mean, God bless you. I know that I looked at this person's Facebook today. We have friends in common. I'm sure she's a very sweet woman. But it is another 69-year-old white woman. Another old white woman.
We can't do
in a seat
this.
Where we just lost a ton of but now this woman is put a video up where she's announcing that she's running to be chair of the Palm Beach Dems, and she was basically like, we need younger people, we need new audience, and I'm like, okay,
that sounds good.
Maybe this will be something good.
Who's her running mates?
Like, I have no idea.
Because it would be nice to have a younger
person.
They
did ask the Broward chair if he was considering stepping down. He's like, no, I'll be serving my full 4 years. I was like, okay, let's do it.
Listen.
Let's do it. By the way, it's Friday. I'm drinking a beer, so I'm gonna be drunk. I hope by the end of this.
Ooh, party. This is kind of cool doing it on a Friday.
It is. Listen, I wouldn't mind if you ever want to do this again. I know you have family night on Friday night, so I don't want to
on Friday. But maybe every once in a while.
You could take a break. Just show up for show up for the coffee dessert.
Yeah,
that's enough.
I gotta say that's my favorite part of, because I do all the dishes and blah blah blah. Oh my God, and then I finally sit down.
She's still 12.
I'm still 12 years old.
Yeah.
I'm still tied to this Italian thing.
Bro, speaking of, the only other thing I really wanted to ask you about, and I figured why not just do it on the show, is like, what are we doing for the end of the year this year? We always do like a wrap up, or like our favorite moments, our favorite cup. Like, did you want to do that again?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, cool.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, so like that'll be on December, hold on, let me look, 28th. Okay?
Oh, that's perfect.
So December 28th episode will be a wrap up.
Yes.
A favorite moments,
and we gotta
favorite guests.
We gotta like double up one of these days because the next thing falls on like
Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to figure it out.
Yeah.
But
that would be an easy one to do a double for. Is the wrap up one.
Yeah. Okay.
Wrap up this season.
Ooh.
Year 3, season 3 of the Muck Podcast.
Yes. Listen, guys. 3 years. Get the word out.
I was such a young girl when we started this podcast.
We
I
were
was
so
young and
innocent.
dewy, fresh skin. Now I'm all ragged. I'm like, where's my girl? Let me record this podcast. Let me tell you something right fucking now. The last 10 minutes of our podcast last week were the funniest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. I was editing it. I was peeing my fucking pants. I was playing the clip. I was literally going to the clip and I'm like, I'm telling people, you have to listen to this. I was dying.
It was so ridiculous.
It was so funny. But that also gave me an idea about a podcast or like maybe something we can like do and throw up.
How about, or Patreon and you can get some exclusive
or
content.
Patreon, yeah. But like muck headlines. Like we talk about, you know what I mean? And just analyze like little news things for like 15 minutes. I thought about that
because I saw like things that like are not a whole episode worthy.
Yeah.
And I saw one about like there was like some random politician that like got busted for meth, you know? I'm like, oh, that's funny. And it was just, you know, like these stupid little things that I thought would be hilarious or just kind of odd.
Yeah. We should do that.
Well, it could be sort of like a banana, you know, that Bananas podcast that has just like the weirdo kind of like headlines. Like the one I saw recently was that this whole, what do you call, I know that it's a bevy of nuns, but I don't know what a collective of monks are called, but it was a bunch of monks, like the entire abbey of monks got defrocked because they were all meth heads.
Oh my god!
It was like
did I hear about that?
It was like the funniest story. So something like that, but like just political.
Yeah,
I think that'd be
fun.
Ooh, we have something new.
Well, coming in season 4.
Yes.
Of the Muck Podcast. Season 3, we brought you video for the first time.
Yes. Oh, I like that. See, we're always providing fresh
We're always
content.
evolving.
Yes.
Not our souls or our minds.
No.
But
please.
Yeah, the podcast.
My soul is devolving.
Yeah,
is that a thing?
it's like I become more and more murderous with every day.
Oh my
with every DeSantis headline. Oh, my favorite headline this week with DeSantis is that the new legislature is trying to find a way to do a U-turn on the Disney Reedy Creek.
That's so stupid. My favorite headline was
so stupid. And then DeSantis went on Fox News and he was like, well, it's their own fault for sticking up for things they shouldn't be putting their nose in. And Tucker Carlson's like, that's the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis. And he was so pleased with himself. Like, they are jerking themselves off of that fucking dough-faced motherfucker.
He's so gross. My favorite headline was that the Southern Poverty Law Center is suing him for, they officially filed the lawsuit for the Martha Vineyard immigration issue because they straight up lied to people. So I saw that today and I was like, yes.
And the Matt Gaetz co-host got 11 years in prison.
Oh my God. I was like, yes.
The fucking hammer's coming down on him.
Oh
Come on. It's going to happen.
We need to have, like, that's where we got to go live and just celebrate when that man is not only indicted,
just arrested,
but just
put in handcuffs.
Oh God.
Ugh, that Beavis and Butthead looking motherfucker.
He's so ugly.
He's so ugly.
He's so ugly. But then I was reading about it in that article allegedly that he allegedly like paid to have sex with a child.
Yeah.
With a teenager. And
how are we supposed to protect girls from being sex trafficked when an elected official, both of them, he was a tax assessor or something.
Yeah.
When they're having sex with girls who are being trafficked.
With children.
They're 17 years old.
They're children. They're children. I mean, God.
What chance do we have?
But supposedly that guy ran his mouth about Gaetz. So I'm like, please.
Mommy's waiting for that Christmas present.
I hope to God that they did everything the right way.
Yes.
Because you hear the stories about we can't do this because this was compromised. Like, please.
They built that case, honey. They built that case. Yeah.
I'm waiting.
Oh, so good. All right, well, let's go because my story's long and.
All right.
Okay.
Mine is, I think it's short. I don't even remember.
It's
memory
Friday night. Is there a song about Friday night?
Oh, no. It's Friday. What was that with the girl that everyone shunned her after her? It's Friday,
no.
something Friday.
No, that's not how it went.
But you know what I'm talking about.
Yes,
Rebecca something or other.
Black.
Yes. What was it?
I'm gonna go jump off a bridge. The fact that I fucking just knew that girl's name. Okay, I'm still reeling from my Spotify Wrapped 2022, where I apparently turned into a 15-year-old fucking girl, and Harry Styles and Olivia Rodrigo were in my top 5.
I mean,
and I was like, okay, I'm gonna discuss this with my therapist in a couple days because this is wild. When did that happen?
Oh my god. Oh, what about It's Friday? I'm in love.
Oh, there you go.
I love that song. Yeah. I mean,
that's good.
Love that band, but boy, he did not. Ooh,
no, what are you gonna do? He's an old goth.
I know, but like,
it happens to the best of us, honey.
It just doesn't. It's kind of the funniest thing, like you know how they're like, what is our generation gonna be like at the nursing home?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
The tattoos,
the tattoos, and like they're gonna be raging.
Yeah.
You know, like what are they gonna be listening to? That'd be funny.
Listen,
anyway,
it's like here. It reminds me of Avril Lavigne. She's still dressing as if she's this teenage punk.
No, she's not.
I swear to God, I'm gonna look up a picture right now. She's on tour and she's still wearing like she's pants. Going to Hot Topic. Yes, and I'm like, isn't she in her 40s at this
She's got to be at least late 30s, 40s.
Let me see how old she is. She's 38.
Ooh, girl.
And she still dresses like she's. Look.
She's going to Hot Topic.
Wait, hold on. I gotta find a recent picture. Listen,
anyway,
she's
cute.
I mean, she looks cute, but she's like an old lady still doing it.
Yeah.
Look.
Let me see this.
That's not a good example. Yeah. That's not a good example.
Okay. Her hair looks good.
Okay. Hold on. That's not good. That's not a good example. Anyway, on tour she dresses in the outfits. So that's all I'm saying.
Okay, yeah. So she's like,
she's still a skater boy at 38. Is all I'm saying.
Something like that.
Yes.
Da-na-na. But she had ones that the something complicated.
Here's one. Look about this.
Okay. Oh no.
She looks like
she's from Clueless.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
not
in
like,
a good way.
That's like punk rock Clueless.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Let's go.
We went down the wrong path. I blame the Spotify Wrapped again.
Okay. All right. We're ready. We are ready.
Oh, God. Okay, go.
All right. Today, I'm going to tell you the story of former New York Senator Pedro Espada. All right. Pedro Espada served in the New York Senate, but when his high-rolling lifestyle doesn't match up to a civil servant's pay, an investigation is launched.
This is the main road we go down on the muck. Somebody's taking too much of the money.
Yeah, and I guess it's that idea that what is the quote? Power attracts the worst, and corrupts the best.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
That's true.
It's just
they always seem like they're here for
they start off good and then they can't. It's like they can't.
Which makes you wonder what is Nancy Pelosi been up to? You know what I'm saying? If someone's been serving for 40 years,
too long.
Honey, there's all kinds of questions about her husband and getting stock tips and all the things that she does there. There's lots of evidence of that. I'm going to shout that out for my good friend, so he would love hearing me say that. There you go. There's a little golden nugget for you.
Oh my goodness. Okay,
Cheers.
our story. Salud. Our story.
Yes.
Our story takes place in New York. Specifically, we're in the Bronx, and Espada had this sort of wonderful American success story. His wiki page notes that he was born in Puerto Rico in 1953. He moved to the States when he was 5 years old. And according to various sources, including this article for the New York Times by Mossy Secrets and another article by the Times, Espada spent many of the years of his youth homeless.
Wow.
Yeah, and on welfare. But then he sort of just turns that around and he went to, a public school, but then he attended college at Fordham, which is a great university. And then he also did certificate classes at UPenn and Columbia. So Ivy League schools, he really worked hard to become successful,
God, you hate to see this happen.
You hate to see it. It's like, hey, Mr. Ivy Leaguer, now,
Dang it.
So in the 70s, he worked as an educator, and he also gave back to his community very early on. And in 1981, he founded this healthcare network called Soundview. And this was like it was sort of like this building that had different healthcare sort of access to low income folks and people who didn't have insurance and things like that in his community, and specifically in the Bronx. And so it's a nonprofit, and a lot of the money, because to start it and to fund it, came from federal dollars.
Okay.
So he ends up making his way to the New York Senate beginning in 1993. So he's working for his community, so he's kind of known for, like, you know, his civil work and things like that. And he gets elected in 93, then he gets elected again in 2001. And the funny thing is, though, and this isn't part of the major incident, but in 1996, so he's serves in 93, and then he is, you know, doesn't win. And in 96, he's indicted for spending $70,000 from a city HMO fund to fund his reelection campaign. And he loses that campaign, but then the people reelect him in 2001.
I was going to say that he still wins later. Oh my God. What's wrong with us?
Yeah. I mean, it's our fault.
It totally is our
fault.
He told you who he was. You didn't believe him. I think he stole the money.
Yeah, I think they end up like dropping the something. I forget what happens with that.
That's all they
story.
need. Then they run with that. That
right?
was the thing.
So in 2008, he's reelected again, and he serves on the Senate until 2011. And he was a Senate majority leader. And at the time, he was the state's highest ranking Latino. So like it was like a real big accomplishment.
Of course,
you know? So from what I read as far as sort of his position as a politician, he was a very moderate Dem. And even at times, he kind of like would lean into the Republican side more than the Democratic side in certain things. And there was like this whole like attempted coup where there was like all of this infighting and there's all this kind of drama happening. And again, he was more on the other side than his own party side. But, you know, whatever.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
What are you going to do? So the major incident, according to Mossy Secret's New York Times article, then State Attorney General Andrew Cuomo started an investigation on Espada. Specifically, he starts looking into the funding of the Soundview Health Center. And according to John Marzula's Daily News article, Espada used an American Express card from the nonprofit basically as his own little personal cash cow. And
you know, we have some people who are elected or were elected. They left office, but then they didn't. But there's one particular that's elected. Their money's in healthcare, like personal healthcare business, and I'm always like,
how does that work? You know, and
they're millionaires from it. And I'm just like, what? I don't know.
All right, so the New York Attorney General's office at the time put out a report, and they alleged that Espada skimmed about $14 million from Soundview.
Holy shit.
And the other issue was that his friends and family basically were working for the nonprofit. Who were on the board.
They're making money.
So who's on the board of directors? All his friends and family, like other former senators and elected people. Everything is kind of connected to people that he knows, and they're just signing off on stuff.
Oh my God.
So it was him getting indicted, but there was like 11 other people too. I'm focusing on him, but there was sort of like, and they were all connected to him.
Oh my God.
One that I will connect on is his son was also involved.
Oh my God.
So Cuomo said,
why? Why?
I know. So Cuomo said at the time, quote, taxpayer money was given to this not-for-profit to provide healthcare services to underprivileged patients, but our investigation has found the funds flowed into the pockets of Senator Espada and his supporters.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine? And the thing that like
money.
One and two, they're taking it from an organization that is supposed to be helping underprivileged folks. You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing you have some kind of like, I don't know, stock hedge fund or some kind of BS, like you're doing a Ponzi, and Ponzi schemes are bad, like you're ripping off millionaires. It's, to me, morally worse to go after funding that's supposed to help people, especially since you were a homeless youth and someone on welfare who depended on services like that.
Yeah.
Like, it's disgusting to me.
Oh my God, dude, you're so right.
So
Jesus.
our favorite part, and I feel like
what did he spend it on?
I know, but we should have a game show that's like, how did they spend the money?
I'll put some music in here. It was coming right up, Johnny. Like, all right, I'll put music in here.
It'll be so funny. Oh my god.
Here's the game show. What did he spend the money on?
Peddling politicians. And who? Here we go. Okay. All right, this was so much fun. So he spent money on fine dining. Mm-hmm. So Mazzulli's article noted that one time he even had a lobster meal delivered to his home. It was $100 lobster, right? And he made sure that the shell was removed. And a lot of articles talked about that. Like, it was like people were kind of like, look at how bougie, this bougie-crat, how bougie he was, because he was like, I can't even take the shell off. Like, it had to be like, someone had to take it out of the shell for him before it was delivered. You know what I mean?
Oh my god! I mean, I'm not into lobster, but it does sound very
bougie.
Yeah.
Do you like bougie crat? The bougie crats.
I do like bougie crats. I'll write it down.
So Cuomo's report indicated also that he spent nearly $80,000 at fine dining restaurants, $20,000 on sushi. At this one sushi restaurant, $20,000.
What the fuck?
Can you imagine?
Who cares?
You know that sushi restaurant when he's coming in the door, they're like, yes! We're making money tonight. We are making money. Like, they're fighting over, like, who gets to help with this.
Yeah, but it's never like they take the money and they put it away, like they hide it, they bury it, they put it in an offshore account. Like, it's always like, I'm going to go nuts.
Yeah, he's living the high life. So he also spent the money on Broadway shows, sporting events, concerts.
Hot.
He took his family and friends on out-of-state trips.
Oh.
He threw parties.
Ooh.
And one
like
including
that.
a birthday party for his kid where he had pony rides and, the whole thing.
The New York taxpayers pay good.
I know.
They pay good. Thanks for the pony ride.
Right? Because you know that shit is expensive.
Oh my
God. The little pony at a party. Can you imagine? Who's doing that anyway, honestly?
Yeah. I want a pony.
I want it now, Daddy.
Daddy, I want a pony and I want it now. Womp womp. She goes down to these things.
Oh my God.
Willy Wonka. Look it up. Look it up.
It's the best.
But Daddy, I want a party with lots of ponies.
Yes. I want the goose that laid the golden egg.
God.
Oh my God, she's the best.
Yeah.
What is
Veruca Salt.
Yeah.
And a good band.
Ooh, yes.
2 in 1.
Yes. So he also spent the money on cars, and of course, not just ordinary cars.
Let's hear it.
Right?
Oh my God.
Luxury cars, and he put like a huge down payment on for a Bentley and things like that.
A Bentley?
A Bentley.
See, it's like too much. It's too
much.
out there. You've done too much. You've gone too far.
It's ridiculous.
The lobster and the Bentley, you've gone too far. It's like flashy.
And people are
like,
doing? And people are going to be like, what the hell's going on?
I get paid $20,000 a year in the States.
It's ridiculous.
Get the fuck out of here.
He also had renovations to his home done.
Now that, okay.
Spa treatments and $450,000 on personal items.
Oh my God, what is that?
Just like random shit he bought. 400.
What would you calculate as personal items? Like grocery shopping? Like, what are we talking about?
I feel like that would be just like sort of like,
clothes?
I'm stopping at a store. Yeah,
okay.
Clothes. Like I got a haircut. Like shit like that. Like your everyday.
Jesus.
$450,000.
Damn.
This guy.
I wouldn't even know what to do with that much money. I'd be scared. I'd put it in the bank and I'd open up my bank account every day and I'd just go, okay, it's still there, and I'd walk away. I would be scared to like a lobster. I wouldn't even do that. I wouldn't even get a Bentley. No. I maybe would get a nicer car, but I wouldn't do that.
The Broadway shows sound nice.
Yes,
I would love to go to a Broadway. Take me,
no,
please.
that's the life I'd like to live. Yeah.
However, not on the backs of poor people.
No. This is it's a shame.
And here's the best part, though. Here's the best part. According to Marzulli's article, the centers didn't have enough money for proper equipment, like X-ray machines, MRI machines, or any sort of like medical needs. Because he's taking all the money.
What a giant fucking
You know what I
piece
mean?
of shit.
Like, it's one thing like, okay, this is all state-of-the-art, high-end stuff. No. We're taking all the money and we're not even providing like decent equipment for the services for these people. It's so shameful. It's shameful. Like, how do you not walk around and go, oh, I am a horrible person?
Or I'm a horrible person, but also I'm going to get caught at any minute. Like, he doesn't even care. He keeps fucking, his family's on there. Oh my God,
and they're all
so
bad.
inappropriate.
They're all bad.
Yeah.
All bad. So aside from spending money on like that kind of stuff, he also did some other shady stuff with the business. So Cuomo's report showed that Espada received 14 weeks of vacation each year from Soundview, but instead of taking the because he's on he's like the CEO or whatever, I don't know what his title was.
He took the pay for it.
He cashed in those days for over $75,000, which violated nonprofit law because you can't do that. He created this is my favorite. He created a janitorial business, and he had Soundview put out a bid for a janitorial service.
My God, this is like the guy last week with the vending machines.
Yeah. It went to his own janitorial company.
Yeah.
At over $400,000 a year for that contract. Can you imagine this?
Why would a nonprofit be spending over $400,000 a year
on a janitor? It's ridiculous. How big is this place?
Oh my God.
He also paid for his political campaigning literature. $150,000 came from Soundview. And like we've covered in other stories, he used his employees like during campaign season to do campaign work.
So does he ever admit to this, or does he fight it?
Oh no, he's an arrogant
God,
man.
this guy.
Yeah. And then, like I said, he had the friends and family and all of that on the board and on all of that, which a little shady too. So he had it all planned out, right? I'm going to stack everything with the people I know. They'll sign off on the stuff I need. And he did it for a number of years. Like he's thinking I'm getting away with it. All right, so his charges were 6 counts of embezzlement and stealing federal funds, 1 count of lying on his 2005 tax return. He was ultimately found guilty of 4 counts of stealing federal dollars from the healthcare nonprofit and lying on the tax return. He pled guilty to that, and then he was found guilty for the other ones.
Okay.
And his son was involved too. His son was on the board. I think he even had his son sort of be like the co-owner or the sort of person running the janitorial organization. So he didn't get as much time as his father at all. He pled guilty to 1 count of stealing from the nonprofit and for failing to file the tax return. So
embarrassing.
It's embarrassing.
Aren't you embarrassed by this?
So I know. So according to the Department of Justice's press release, in June 2013, Espada was sentenced to 5 years in jail, followed by 3 years of probation. He also had to serve 100 hours of community service, but this is the best part. As far as restitution, he had to give $118,531 to the IRS. Then he had to give $368,088 back to the victims. And then an equal $368,088 to the government in forfeiture of stuff. So he had to turn stuff back in. So I was like, all right, I like that he suffered,
Yeah.
And 5 years, it's a long time. So U.S. Attorney Loretta Lynch had this to say at sentencing, quote, "The people of the Bronx trusted Pedro Espada Jr. to have their best interest at heart. Instead, he abused that trust to the tune of more than $500,000.
Oh my God.
FBI Director Venizelos had this to say about Espada. Over 30 years ago, Pedro Espada Jr. helped establish the Soundview Health Center, but his own greed and self-dealing undermined that good work. Espada's embezzlement of federal funds diverted money meant to serve the health needs of the people of the South Bronx. In lining his own pockets, he betrayed those people and stole from U.S. taxpayers in the process. There is a price to pay for these betrayals."
Woo!
Isn't that good?
Very good.
His son ends up getting sentenced for 6 months, so he doesn't get as much time as his dad.
Yeah. Jesus.
I know. So after sentencing, Espada had this to say to the judge: "What I created as a young man was not a piggy bank, but a lifeline that served thousands of people for 30 years. So he was pretty defiant. He's just like, I didn't do this thing, right? And from the articles that I read, he basically shows no remorse. And he sort of sticks to this, I've been set up, they're coming after me sort of thing. And he really kind of blames Cuomo. And he's like, Cuomo wants to be governor. He's doing this to get attention. He's using me in this whole thing. None of this is true. But, obviously it's true. So some of the aftermath, obviously he lost his reputation. And Another thing that happened was that Soundview closed its doors after 30 years.
Dang.
So the folks of the Bronx really end up the most harmed by his actions because like all this happens and they're just, he's got to give all this money back and it's a hot mess and it's him and all his friends on the board. So
Jesus.
It just closes. So some points of interest. One thing I found interesting was sort of the balls on this guy. Secret's New York Times article noted that Espada tried to accuse the sentencing judge of tampering with the jurors prior to sentencing.
God, bro.
The judge was at home at the time, and Espada claims that he saw the judge enter the jury room, and like he thinks that he like tampered with the jury to tell them what to do.
Break.
And Judge Block commented, "There is so simply no way I could have spoken to the jurors between the time they arrived and the time they reached their verdict." Like he's like, "I wasn't even there, bro. So whatever."
Oh, God, so desperate.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So this I thought was funny too. So he is sentenced, of course, a federal crime. And, these guys are not going to, like, they're in some scary prison,
Right.
So less than a year of being held in a federal penitentiary in Pennsylvania. So he's in this federal penitentiary that has boundaries, but they're not fenced in. And it's like, you can't go past this line kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he, like, walks up, like, right, as close as you can. And they say he, like, kind of stepped over the line. Like, he's, like, testing the waters, I guess. I don't know. So they say he moved too close to the boundaries. So they're just like, bye, you're out of this prison.
Whoa!
So then they sent him to a prison in Brooklyn and he was not happy about. So I'm like, you can't stay in the line.
No,
he can't do it. He
can't.
can't do it.
No.
He wants to show off. Like,
Jail, it didn't even humble him.
No.
Nothing humbles him.
No.
What a fucking prick.
And then he's complaining that he's in like this other shit prison in Brooklyn. And it's like, dude, you had it made.
That's your own damn fault, motherfucker. Dudes cannot take responsibility.
Oh my God.
Cannot take responsibility.
So when Soundview was first raided in May of 2010, Espada didn't resign. And in fact, he was in the middle of a primary election and he stayed in the election. Like,
of course he did.
Like, what? I don't get it. And then I read somewhere like that he kind of pulled a Charlie Crist, where when he ran in 2008, he ran as a Dem, and then he switched. Well, no.
Yeah.
And then he switched to a Republican in 2009.
Oh,
then he went back to the Dems in 2010. Like,
wow.
Yeah. So there was a little bit,
and then, still elected him. Dems across the country are a bunch of fools.
Come here. I mean, these
God.
guys. And then his son was also a politician. He once served as a city councilman. So I thought that was funny too. And that's it. That's my little story about Pedro Espada. Crook, criminal. What a scumbag.
I can't. Every week we got one. Mine was last week. Now it's your week. Every week somebody's fucking stealing money. Meanwhile, it's so much money that could really have an impact on people.
And then, but think about
what's the
how
point
many
of going
people,
to public service if you're doing shit like that?
Think about how many people have gotten away with it. Because, we covered one guy a few weeks ago who it was after he died that they sort of found everything out. And how many of those people are out there who are already gone? We don't know what they've done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, people do it because they know they can get away with it because they've heard that someone else has gotten away with it or something, I don't know. All right.
I'm kind of excited about my case. I think that you'll be excited too.
Okay.
I'm covering the Terri Schiavo case.
What? Ooh.
Girl.
This is going to be intense.
It's intense.
This is going to be intense. Oh, I'm glad that I can relax.
I've been out of my mind thinking about this week. It's really fucked up.
All right, let's go.
Okay. So Terri Schiavo is kind of a Florida thing. Like if you were around in the 90s, you knew about Terri Schiavo, and it did become like a national and global story because what happens is it ends up being a fight for life.
Yeah.
Versus the right to end with like your life with dignity. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it became these two things, and then it got political. So that's why I wanted to do it because it became
it's
so fucking political.
It's so political,
and it was a family issue. It was between the parents and the husband, right? So I even back then I was like, oh man, she should be able to
make that choice.
Make her, or the husband who's her guardian should be able to make this choice for her versus the parents. And I always just felt very sad for the parents. And then doing this story, I felt so fucking bad for the parents. I don't agree with what they're trying to do, but their desperation to not let their daughter go,
of course,
fucking kills me. It kills me doing this. I was so sad for them.
And this was also happening at the time of like the Dr. Kevorkian, you know, like that, and so because there are some states where that is legal,
right?
And there are several. I mean, I think the majority of the states it's illegal. You know, if people want to say, "Hey, I want to die," I mean, this is sort of a different situation, but all of that was kind of happening around the same time, and like this conversation about what constitutes life, what, you know, and I mean, you know, and then people who have religious beliefs and then scientific beliefs, like there's all of this so stuff. Much. It's very
became so political in a way that was so fucking weird. It was weird. I remember it being weird then to me. Even reading it, I'm like, this is weird.
I just remember,
but also Florida.
Yeah, it's very Florida. But I just remember feeling bad for Terri Schiavo, like, because like obviously like she can't make a decision for herself,
right?
And there she is with all of this around her, and then you don't know like if there's any consciousness of there's this like what's going, you know what I mean? Like
it's just so fucking sad. Also in the notes and in the Instagram you'll see pictures of her before, which
I remember that.
I don't remember seeing a picture of her. I just know that one picture that's kind of famous.
Yes.
Which I have in the notes also, but the pictures of what she looked like before.
Oh no, I don't know what she looks like.
It's crazy. It's fucking wild.
See, and that's terrible too.
The whole thing is fucking sad. All right, let's get into it. It's Friday night.
Let's bring it down.
Floaty.
We're gonna bring it
down. We're gonna have some fun. And you know, try not to cry at the end of this.
Oh my god,
I'm already crying. All right. Terri Schiavo was born Teresa Marie Schindler to Mary and Robert Schindler on December 3rd, 1963 in Lower Moreland Township, Pennsylvania, a suburb of Philadelphia. She attended Bucks Community College, where she met Michael Schiavo in 1982, and the two began dating and were married November 10th, 1984. They moved to Florida in 1986 following Terri's parents, who had already moved down here. They lived on the West Coast in the St. Pete area. Lovely area. Michael worked as a restaurant manager while Terri took up a bookkeeping job at an insurance company. Okay, so in the early morning of February 25th, 1990, Terri Schiavo collapsed in a hallway of her St. Petersburg, Florida apartment. Firefighters and paramedics arriving in response to her husband, Michael, calling 911, found her face down and unconscious. She was not breathing and had no pulse, and she was 27 years old.
I mean, I forgot how young she was because I was younger, and anyone sort of...
Yeah. But she looked older. By the time this case kind of became
when we saw the pictures, maybe
she looked
that's
older
why,
than what she actually was.
I don't remember her being that young.
Yeah, 27. Oh. They attempted to resuscitate her, and she was transported to the Humana Northside Hospital. Paramedics had her intubated and ventilated. The cause of Terri Schiavo's collapse was determined as cardiac arrest.
My God.
Right. So I didn't know any of this either. Her medical chart contained a note that, quote, she apparently has been trying to keep her weight down with dieting by herself, drinking liquids most of the time during the day, and drinking about 10 to 15 glasses of iced tea, end quote.
Was she like
she was having,
because I remember
she was having like bulimia. She was bulimic. Yeah. So this was contributing to her heart.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Even like people who have anorexia disorders, the same thing. It's just a strain.
Yep.
Of your body.
Yeah, I didn't realize that's what had happened. Oh. So upon admission to the hospital, she was noted as suffering from hypokalemia, which is low potassium levels. Her serum potassium level was abnormally low at 2.0 milliliters. I don't know if that's right. The normal range for adults is 3.5 to 5.
And
so
potassium
she was very low.
Is really serious. Like when my dad had the chemo, his potassium levels like boom went down, and it was like that was the thing that was making him delirious, and all of these things. Like it's incredible how like a nutrient
if something's off a little,
impacts your mind, impacts your body.
Yeah.
Oh, this poor lady.
So her sodium and calcium levels were normal. Electrolyte imbalance is often caused by drinking excessive fluids, and a serious consequence of hypokalemia can be heart rhythm abnormalities, including sudden arrhythmia death syndrome. Schiavo was eventually switched from being fed by a nasogastric feeding tube to a percutaneous endoscopic gastrostomy feeding tube.
What does that mean?
So I think it went from I think it
stomach?
I think it went directly into her. I think that's what it means.
Okay.
So Dr. Garcia J. De Sousa, a board-certified neurologist in St. Petersburg, Florida, who previously treated Terri Schiavo, cared for her during her initial admission to Humana Northside. Both he and Victor Gambone, an internist and Schiavo family physician, independently made the diagnosis of persistent vegetative state, also called PVS, within approximately 1 year after her sudden cardiac arrest. So she wasn't coming out of this, right?
Right, and like no brain waves, like
nothing.
It's just her body.
Michael, her husband, of course, is interested in like what can we do to bring her back? Like,
right.
Is this permanent? Like, he was looking for answers. In November 1990, he took her to University of California in San Francisco for experimental nerve stimulation with a thalamic stimulator, which is a small device that they insert in her brain to cause stimulation. It's like tiny. It looks very small, but you'll see it on an x-ray, which is also in my pictures.
Wow.
The treatment took several months and was unsuccessful. He returned to Florida with her in January 1991 and admitted her as an inpatient to the Mediplex Rehabilitation Center in Bradenton, Florida. On July 19th, 1991, Terri Schiavo was transferred to the Sable Palm Skilled Care Facility, where she received neurological testing and regular speech and occupational therapy until 1994. So nothing's happening. She's in this vegetative state.
How are they doing speech and occupation?
I think they're just constantly trying to get her. She's awake, but there's nothing happening. Do you know what I mean? Like, her eyes are opening, but she can't. Like, there's nothing happening. But they keep her body moving, right?
Right.
So we're gonna get into what becomes like massive amounts of lawsuits, and there's like different level. Like, I think it's Schiavo case. They call them Schiavo 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is the 4 major cases. But the first one that was that happened was a malpractice suit. In 1992, Michael filed a malpractice suit against Terri's gynecologist on the basis that he failed to diagnose bulimia as the cause of her infertility. She was trying to get pregnant and couldn't.
Oh, of course,
because she wasn't getting her
period.
period.
Cycle.
Right.
Absolutely.
Terri had gone to the doctor because she had stopped menstruating. That's how thin she was.
Yeah.
But the doctor had failed to take her medical history into account, which might have revealed an eating disorder, right? So if she
the doctor has
treated
to be like,
for that,
you're 27 years old.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on?
If she had been treated for that, maybe she wouldn't have had the heart attack, right?
Right. Oh, goodness gracious.
So during the case, one of Terri's friends testified that she knew Schiavo was bulimic. And in November 1992, Michael won the case and was awarded $6.8 million by the jury.
Wow.
Later reduced to $2 million as Terri was found partly at fault for her condition.
I feel like now we wouldn't blame.
It's a mental health thing.
It's a mental health issue.
After attorney's fees and other expenses, Michael received $300,000 and $750,000 was put into a trust fund for Terri's medical care, which is why he was suing them.
Yeah.
Like, who the fuck's going to pay for all of this, right?
It's
been years now.
Oh my God.
It's been years.
And the therapy, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Jesus, it's like when you have a baby, you're there for a day?
Yeah.
It's like, if you don't have insurance, it's so much money.
Yeah.
And she's getting like round the clock care.
She's in a care facility.
Every single
Okay.
And that's a burden.
Yeah. So
it's a financial burden.
Michael, of course, loves Terri. This is his wife. He's her guardian. He's her caretaker. And is starting to understand that she's not going to come out of this.
Right.
Right? And the only thing that's keeping her alive is the feeding tube. So this becomes the issue. And he's wanting to remove the feeding tube because how long are we going to keep her alive where she's not Terri? That's the part that really gets me. Is like, if this was my daughter, I would probably do the same thing that these parents did. But at some point, don't you look at your child and say, "This isn't my child. This isn't my daughter anymore."
And I wouldn't want their body to suffer.
Right? But this. So they get wrapped up, but it's still like so fucking. I don't know.
It's horrible.
It's a hard decision.
And the whole like. The like brain dead. I don't know if you've ever listened to. Oh gosh, it's on NPR. It's the science show Radiolab. And they did a radio lab where they talked to someone about like people who are brain dead. Yeah. And this one story that they told was so like it upset me because it was like some people are brain dead, right? Or they'll have an accident, and if you can kind of hear someone's voices, your brain's reacting. But sometimes somebody will have an accident and they can't hear. So like
you don't see it showing up.
Yeah. So how many people are there? And they can't hear, but they're alive in their head, and then like, oh my God, like it's frightening. And the way that they tested it, like the first time, I guess it was like, imagine that you're playing tennis, now stop. Imagine that you're playing tennis, now stop. So if someone's in that coma state,
they'll hear that.
Their brain waves will move, but then again, if you're deaf, you don't have that. It's just frightening. It's frightening. So then it's like, of course, at first when this is happening, like, what if she can hear in her head?
No, there's nothing happening.
Okay.
There's no brainwaves.
So yeah, they're talking to her, they're doing, and nothing is responding. Yeah, I mean, what are you going to do then?
Right. So on June 18th, 1990, the court appointed Michael Schiavo as Terri's legal guardian. This appointment was not disputed by the Schindlers at the time. In May 1998, Michael Schiavo filed a petition. So it's been 8 years.
No, it's too much.
He filed a petition to remove Terri's feeding tube, where her parents opposed it.
But why do her parents have a say? She's an adult.
Hold on, we'll see. We'll get it. So Richard Pierce was appointed by the court as a second guardian ad litem on December 29th, 1998, because the parents are like, this is bullshit, blah, blah, blah. So they're like, Terri needs someone to represent her. Okay. He reported, quote, Dr. Jeffrey Karp's opinion of the ward's condition and prognosis is substantially shared among those physicians who have recently been involved with her treatment, end quote. Every doctor said she's permanently vegetative. Every single, not one doctor didn't say that. Okay. Pierce concluded from Karp's and Vincent Gambone's diagnosis of persistent vegetative state that Schiavo was legally in a persistent vegetative state as defined by Florida statutes Title XLIV, Chapter 765, Statute 10112. This includes the, quote, absence of voluntary action and an inability to communicate to interact purposefully, end quote, right? Pierce found that there was no possibility of improvement, but that Michael Schiavo's decisions might have been influenced by the potential to inherit what remained of Terri Schiavo's estate as long as he remained married to her. This guy, this fucking person is the one who could stop this whole thing.
So and he just stirred the pot right up.
That was it.
What is wrong with people?
Due to a lack of a living will and questions regarding Michael's credibility, Pierce recommended denying his petition to remove her feeding tube. Pierce reported that the issue of conflict of interest applied to the Schindlers as well, because they could maybe try to get the money. Since Michael hadn't divorced Terri as they wanted him to, they would have inherited the remainder of Terri Schiavo's estate upon her death.
Why does he have to divorce her? That's still his wife.
Right.
I don't understand. So they're like,
so that you want to take over.
Yeah, you want to take the feeding tube, you divorce her.
Yeah, you don't want to take care of her anymore. You clearly don't care about what happens to her. We'll take it. Fine, get a divorce, and we'll take over as her guardian.
No, I do care about her. Like, let her go. Let her rest.
He maintained that this is not what Terri wanted. She expressed to me she never wanted to be in this. If she was ever in this state, I was to take her off of it. Her friends end up testifying. Like, we get into all of it, but like this is not what she ever would have wanted. This is for the reason the parents want it is it's because it's for them. It's for them, not for Terri. They can't let it go. Which again, I understand. You see that baby, right?
Yeah, no, I do, but I also would not want to see.
I know. I hear you.
My child suffer. I wouldn't.
Okay, so let's get into Schiavo 1. Given the lack of a living will, a trial was held before Pinellas County Judge George Greer, this poor guy, during the week of January 24th, 2000, 10 years now, to determine what Terri Schiavo's wishes would have been regarding life-prolonging procedures. The trial included testimony from 18 witnesses regarding her medical condition and her end-of-life wishes. Michael claimed that his wife would not want to be kept on a machine where her chance for recovery was minuscule. According to the appeal trial order, her parents claimed, quote, that Terri was a devout Roman Catholic who would not wish to violate the church's teachings on euthanasia by refusing nutrition and hydration, end quote. Judge Greer issued his order granting the petition for authorization to discontinue artificial life support for Terri Schiavo in February 2000. So Michael gets this decision. The court found that Terri Schiavo was in a persistent vegetative state, that she had made reliable oral declarations that she would have wanted the feeding tube removed. Like, she told several people this. Okay. This decision was upheld by the Florida 2nd District Court of Appeal and came to be known as Schiavo 1. Okay. But that's not enough, right? So even though the judge said you can remove the tube, the parents immediately start to file other lawsuits to postpone that from happening, right? To keep it from happening. So in March 2000,
the legal system.
Yeah. In March 2000, the Schindlers filed a motion to permit assisted feeding of Terri, which is not considered a life-prolonging procedure under Florida law. So, like feeding her in her mouth.
Oh.
Okay.
But can she swallow?
No. Since clinical records indicated that Terri Schiavo was not responsive to swallowing tests and required a feeding tube, Judge Greer ruled that she was not capable of orally ingesting sufficient nutrition and hydration to sustain life and denied the request. Then they filed another lawsuit challenging Michael as the guardian. By this time, while legally married to Terri, Michael was in a relationship with another woman and had fathered his first child.
It's 10 years. I mean, he wants to move on with his life.
Yeah, he has, and he has moved on with his life, right?
So, but he's not married. He's like...
No, he won't. He will not get divorced. He will not divorce.
So I was going to say, otherwise they could get him on like polygamy or whatever.
He said he chose not to divorce his wife and relinquish guardianship because he wanted to ensure her final wishes not to be kept alive in a PVS were carried out. The court went, but at this point, I don't know. The court once again denied the parents' guardianship. The court also set April 24th, 2001 as the date which the tube was to be removed. So then we go into the cases that are Schiavo 2. In April 2001, the Schindlers filed a motion for relief from judgment citing new evidence of Terri Schiavo's wishes. Judge Greer denied the motion as untimely under the Florida Rules of Civil Procedure. The Second District Court of Appeals upheld Greer's decision, but...
Oh, God, these butts!
...remanded the issue in order to give the Schindlers an opportunity to file a new motion.
Oh.
On April 24th, 2001, Terri's feeding tube was removed for the first time. The Schindlers filed a civil suit against Michael Schiavo alleging perjury, which was assigned to another court. So just basically throwing shit at the wall to see if anything can stop this from happening. The judge, Frank Quesada, issued an injunction against the removal of the feeding tube until this was settled.
Wait, so they take out the tube?
Yeah, they took
and then
it out.
Put it back in like
2 days later, April 26th, they put it back in.
Oh my God, this poor woman.
Yeah. On appeal by Michael Schiavo, the Second District Court of Appeal reversed Judge Quesada's order. In the same time frame, Michael Schiavo filed a motion to enforce the mandate of the guardianship court that the feeding tube be removed. The Second District Court of... So you can't even... Now that even though the judge was like, all right, we'll reverse it, you still have to file to get it put back in. You have to put another fucking motion to get it put back in. You can't just go to the hospital and have them do it. Or take it out,
Yeah,
you know?
But I mean, this is like putting it in, taking it out. Like, what are you doing with this person? Yeah. Like, they're all using her.
Oh,
they're all using her.
I know. And the Second District Court of Appeal denied the motion. These 3 decisions all became known in a single order as Schiavo 2. So...
Wow.
Yeah.
And you said
there's 4. So let's get this next section is 3 and 4. On August 10th, 2001, on remand from the Florida Second District Court of Appeal, Judge Greer heard a motion from the Schindlers claiming that new medical treatment could restore sufficient cognitive ability such that Terri Schiavo herself would be able to decide to continue life-prolonging measures.
This is now 11 years later?
But you hear what's happening also?
They're manipulating.
But the undertones of this, too, is they're being approached as grieving parents who just want to save their daughter
they're
by
manipulating
quacks
her.
who are like, if you can only let me get in there.
Wow.
I've created this device. And if I stick it in her ear or whatever, like it'll wake her up. Like they're getting false hope from so many people.
That the modern day snake oil salesman.
Yeah. The court also heard motions from the Schindlers to remove Michael as the guardian and to require Judge Greer to recuse himself. Judge Greer denied the motions and the Schindlers' appeal to the Second District Court of Appeals. On October 17th, 2001, the Court of Appeal affirmed the denials of the motion to remove and recuse the judge. The Court of Appeals acknowledged that their opinion misled the trial court, and they remanded the question of Terri Schiavo's wishes back to the trial court and required an evidentiary hearing to be held, which is fucking insane. Now this is going to draw this out longer. And the court specified that 5 board-certified neurologists were to testify. The Schindlers are allowed to get 2. To present their 2 doctors to present their findings, and Michael could introduce 2 people to be a rebuttal. And finally, the trial court itself would appoint a new independent physician to examine and evaluate Terri Schiavo's condition. These decisions, all published in a single order, were known as Schiavo 3. And October 2002, these were all like landmark cases, right? In October 2002, on remand by the Second District Court of Appeal, an evidentiary hearing was held in Judge Greer's court. In preparation for the trial, a new CAT scan was performed, which showed severe cerebral atrophy.
Oh God! So now,
now it's been a long time. There's really like nothing.
There's nothing left.
And even in the CAT scan, which you'll see in our notes, you see like a normal brain CAT scan, which is you see the outline of the head, but it's all like white inside. Mm-hmm. And then you see hers, and it's completely black, except for this one spot, which was that that like experimental thing that he had them put a stimulator.
Oh, they did it?
They did. When he took her to California initially, trying to find a way. You see that, and that's it. Like, there's nothing happening. There's nothing happening.
Oh, that's
and
awful.
even for someone to tell her parents that that's a possibility is criminal. I think it's criminal.
Oh no, it's awful.
This is worse than like,
manipulation.
and this reminds me a lot of like after Hurricane Andrew, people were like, contractors were like, we can rebuild your house, just give us $20,000. And people lost all their money, and they were criminal. Like, they had, and now there's laws against stuff like that.
Yeah.
The same thing here, I think.
This is so terrible.
And
then she's 10 years, and it's just her body. Like,
God, sin. An EEG showed no measurable brain activity at all. The 5 doctors examined Terri Schiavo's medical records, brain scans, videos, and Terri herself. 3 of the doctors testified that Terri Schiavo was in a persistent vegetative state. 2 of those doctors testified that she was in a minimal conscious state, which you know who they are.
I mean.
As part of the court order, medical exam, 6 hours of video of Terri Schiavo were taped and filed at the Pinellas County Courthouse. The tape included Terri Schiavo with her mother and neurologist William Hamishfar. The entire tape was viewed by Judge Greer, who wrote, Terri, quote, clearly does not consistently respond to her mother, end quote. But from those 6 hours of video, the Schindlers and their supporters produced 6 video clips intended to support their case, totaling less than 6 minutes, and released those clips to public websites, which got the Right to Life folks riled up, right? So that's what they started to realize.
So
if we can get people on our side,
clips? Like, is she?
It's the ones where you see her and she's like doing this, and she's looking at her mother,
right.
and it looks like she's smiling, but she's just staring blankly.
Yeah, but is it like your body? You know, I don't know.
Yeah, she's just like doing this. It's a kind of a famous picture. It's one of the ones in our notes. But they took these 6 minutes of her like moving and looking seemingly like she's functioning,
aware.
and
I
used
mean, I
it
can
to
see
push
maybe
their
for a
case.
desperate parent, you see that and you're like, oh, there's my baby. Like, you know, she's there.
Plus,
I get that. And
this is where the Right to Life people started to come in. And also, this is also when everybody else started to come in. Everybody else started to become aware of the case. It became this huge conversation.
No, I remember. And
oh
I mean, I feel like today, I mean, we don't hear as much, but it's a conversation to be had of like what constitutes life.
And like, have your stuff together. You know what I mean?
Who knows? Let people know what you want. Judge
Greer ruled that Terri Schiavo was in a PVS and was beyond hope a significant improvement. This ruling was later affirmed by the Florida 2nd District Court of Appeal, which stated that, quote, this court has closely examined all of the evidence in the record, and we have carefully observed the videotapes in their entirety. The court concluded that, quote, if we were called upon to review the guardianship court's decisions de novo, we would still affirm it. So we're not taking it away from Michael. He's making the right decisions. He's of sound mind, saying he knows she's not going to wake up, unlike the parents, right? And all those rulings were part of Schiavo 4. So around the start of 2003, the Schindlers began to create more publicity by lobbying for their case to keep their daughter alive. On September 11th, 2003, the Schindlers petitioned the court to forestall removal of the feeding tube in order to provide for 8 weeks of therapy. Like, give us 8 more weeks to try to get her. It's just so desperate. It's so heartbreaking. I don't know, but it's so fucking heartbreaking. Accompanying the petition were 4 affidavits from members of the Schindlers family and one from Dr. Alexander D. Gamone. At the hearing, the Schindlers counsel read into the record additional affidavits from 3 speech professionals and 2 nurses. In particular, this is wild, Nurse Carla Iyer asserted that she was able to feed Terri Schiavo orally, but that Michael characterized any such interaction as therapy and ordered her not to do so. Iyer claimed in her affidavit that her initial training in 1996 consisted solely of the instruction, quote, do what Michael Schiavo tells you or you're terminated, end quote. And that standing orders were not to contact the Schindler family, but that she would call them anyway. She would call so she was clearly
she's on the side of the parents. And he probably was like, please don't talk to them like you know, they're driving me nuts.
Yeah.
And they're in my business.
Yeah.
I mean, I do see their side, but at the same time, like, geez, it's
so
too many
up.
years.
Oh,
and what about, does she have any siblings? Like, are they involved, or is anyone saying?
I think that there was a brother. I want to say there was a brother, but
he's
that
not
might
really
be wrong.
I wonder if he's like, Mom, Dad, like, let it go.
Oh my God.
Who knows?
On September 17, 2003, Judge... listen, we're not supposed to decide when people die. Like, especially if it's a family member. Like, if you're ever in that position, right? Like, I can't imagine, even if it's like your brother, right? Like, I can't imagine having to say to my parents, like, we have to take your son off of this. Like, I can't imagine what that's like. Because I also would feel incredibly guilty that this person, like, when you think of your brother and close your eyes, don't you see him as a little boy?
Yeah.
Like, I see my sibling, when my sister had a baby, when I walked into that hospital room, I saw a little girl holding her baby doll. Like, I just saw my sister and all of those things come back. And now you have to make a decision to let that person go.
Oh, it's too much.
It's fucking heartbreaking.
It's too much.
Like, we're not supposed to have to make these decisions for people. It's fucking sad and horrifying. But what you're saying, like, you also don't want to see them suffer.
No.
This is crazy. That they're not the person you remember anymore.
Right.
So I don't know. I feel for this family.
No, everybody involved in this.
Oh my God.
And I think the other thing that's a shame is you have this husband and you have her parents, where I'm sure had a lovely relationship.
They did. They lived in their condo, one of their condos for rent free. Like, they were good. They were close.
And instead of this, and I know it's a tragedy, but it should be something that brought them together. Yes. And it's ripped them apart, and it's terrible. It's fucking really so terrible. Sad.
On September 17, 2003, Judge Greer denied the petition and wrote that, quote, "The petition is an attempt by Mr. and Mrs. Schindler to relitigate the entire case. It is not even a veiled or disguised attempt. The exhibits relied upon by them clearly demonstrate this to be true," end quote. Regarding Nurse Iyer's statements, Greer wrote that they were, quote, "incredible to say the least," and that, quote, Miss Iyer details what amounts to a 15-month cover-up from April 1995 through July 1996, which included the staff of the Palm Gardens of Largo Convalescent Center, the guardian of the person, the guardian ad litem, the medical professionals, the police, and believe it or not, Mr. and Mrs. Schindler. It is impossible to believe that Mr. and Mrs. Schindler would not have subpoenaed Mrs. Iyer for the January 2000 evidentiary hearing had Iyer contacted them in 96 as her affidavit alleged.
That's true.
I mean, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we go. Now we're gonna get political because it's Florida, honey. So we don't love. We can't be made famous. We're not gonna be made famous from it. We don't want anything to do with it. You know what I mean? On October 15th, 2003, Schiavo's feeding tube was removed once again. Within a week, when the Schindlers' final appeal was exhausted in the courts, let's not forget we have 3 branches of government for a reason, right? Within a week, State Rep Frank Atkinson and the Florida legislature passed Terry's Law in an emergency session, giving Governor Jeb Bush the authority to intervene in the case.
Why are you getting Jeb Bush? The
governor. All the Bushes are coming out, honey. It's Bush heavy. It's Bush heavy.
Bush heavy, baby.
I'm gonna write down Bush heavy. Bush heavy, which I don't think Bushes were heavy in the 90s.
I mean, why?
Wink, wink.
Winky. Why in the world is the governor involved?
Because of the pressure, that political pressure. Because now it's
and the right to life and blah blah blah.
Forget about it. This is awful. So it's just like how it's unbelievable that the governor or the Speaker of the House in Florida are talking about drag shows. It's just as fucking wild. Yeah. Like, why do you have nothing else to do that you're trying to take away something that brings me joy?
It's
like,
ridiculous.
Fuck you. Like, find something else to do, bro.
And I've seen a lot of the commentary, like, of men bringing their sons to, like a Hooters or whatever, and like, hey, teach them young and all that crap, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
but everything else is
what's
ruining.
That douchebag's name? What's that fucking guy's name? Caulfield. He's the guy he's in a wheelchair. He's a Republican. Caulfield.
Yeah.
What's his name? I think it's Madison Cawthorn.
Madison Cawthorn.
Okay, this fucking douche of the First Order was fucking voted out of office. Yeah. So he was on the floor this week of the U.S. House talking about how we're raising our sons basically to be pussies and they need to learn how to fight for their country and stand up for themselves, and we're the motherfucker said metrosexual, which I haven't heard since fucking Sex in the City.
Like
old. What the fuck? And all I know is this. The reason why this country is so fucking toxic and the world is a fucking plague on itself is because men have been in charge, men like you fucking piece of shit, for far too long. We don't need blood-hungry, war-mongering douchebags like you anywhere in elected office. We're going to raise our sons to have compassion. Ooh, wow. What will happen? Maybe women won't be raped anymore.
Maybe.
Maybe they'll have respect for people for once.
Hopefully.
Fuck you. You fucking piece of shit. And the fact that his fucking sorry ass, which has been caught on video in bed with other men. Okay, right. Remember that video, that creepy video where he's crawling really fast? Like something out of a horror movie? Like, you're gonna fucking pass judgment on how people should raise children?
I know. They can't see through their own hypocrisy. And
it's not my fault.
People who follow.
That your mother fucking raised you to be a dick.
I mean.
You want to talk about how we should raise children? Go back and thank your mom for what a great job she did on you. You fucking moron. I fucking hate that shit.
I do too.
Because there are boys that are sweet and tough, right? Like my son does drama and he plays hockey.
That's right.
Is that not man enough for you? What are you gonna do? Beat it into him? Fuck you. I was raised in the most toxic fucking household with a toxic man. He's fucking toxic. My brother, thank God, had 3 women around him. So he's not like that. But why do we want to raise... And who was scared of him? All of us. All of us were scared of him.
Yeah. Who wants that?
Is that the kind... You want your kids to be scared of their dad?
Ugh. Please.
I've never had an opinion about this at all in my life. Okay, anyway, let's get back to this fucking...
Yes, I want to hear what's happening.
Okay, sorry, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, that's my therapy session. I'm screaming about toxic men.
Yes.
Governor Bush sent the Florida Department of Law Enforcement to remove Schiavo from the hospice.
Wow.
Bro, listen to this.
Her?
She was taken to Morton Plant Rehabilitation Hospital in Clearwater, where her feeding tube was surgically inserted.
Oh my God. It's, again, they're using this woman. They're using her body. This is violating her body.
She then was returned to the hospice. Part of the legislation required the appointment of a guardian ad litem, Jay Wolfson, to, quote, deduce and represent the best wishes and the best interests of Schiavo and report them back to Governor Bush.
Oh my God. Nobody reported anything.
Could you imagine something like this happens to you?
You think someone legitimately went to Bush and said, no.
But could you imagine that this happens to you and DeSantis is now your guardian ad litem?
Jesus. The only thing I gotta hope for is he's gonna Paisan, we're from the same region. Yeah. Maybe I'll be maybe because she's a third cousin down the line. I might be related to him. Can you imagine this?
Please. I mean...
He's from the same little país over there.
Is he?
Yes!
Shame. How dare you walk in here? How dare you come to my house?
My cousin came to visit and he goes, DeSantis our paisan over there. I'm like, what? He goes, why don't you write him a letter? I said, I'm not writing him a letter.
Here's, dear cousin DeSantis, fuck you.
Cougine. I was like,
Cougine. That's the name of the title. How do you spell Cougine?
I will spell it. It's Cugino. Cugino, hey.
Cugino DeSantis. I bet his bush is thick too. I gotta get through this podcast. Okay. Everything's starting. Everything's starting.
We gotta go. Yeah, we gotta hurry it up. We gotta hurry up.
Everything's happening.
Jesus.
Okay. Wolfson's report did not change Michael's role as her legal guardian and did not otherwise obstruct him legally. Michael Schiavo opposed the governor's intervention in Schiavo's case and was represented against the governor by the ACLU. Wow. At the same time, Robert and Mary Schindler attempted to intervene and participate in the Terry's Law case, but were denied by Judge W. Douglas Baird, a circuit court. So they're trying to get involved in it.
It's ridiculous. Like, I don't understand people. It's anything that can push forward an agenda or their career, and they don't care who they are using. They appealed it, and the judge, of course, denied it again in March 2004. The Schindlers were represented by the American Center for Law and Justice, appealed the right to participate in the Terry's Law case, with the court scheduling an oral argument for June 14th. The Schindler's other attorney, Pat Anderson, was concurrently challenging Michael Schiavo's right to be her guardian, and on June 16th, 2004, she made a petition for writ of quo warranto, which is to become the guardian again. Wow. And I gotta say, I didn't remember it going this far, like, into the 2000s.
Oh, yeah, girl. It keeps going.
Yeah.
On May 5th, so listen to this. On May 5th, 2004, Judge Baird found Terry's Law unconstitutional and struck it down. Governor Bush appealed this order to the 2nd District Court of Appeals, but on May 12th...
And this woman's body is still there.
With the feeding tube in it. God. The feeding tube's back in it.
How much money is this?
Oh my God, forget about it.
I can't even imagine how much money.
They appeal. So he appealed it, but on May 12th, 2004, the court issued an order of relinquishing case for entry of final judgment in order to show cause for why this proceeding should not be certified to the Supreme Court as requiring immediate resolution. So they're like, we're out. The 2nd District Court of Appeals, in sending it directly to the Florida Supreme Court, invoked pass-through jurisdiction. So no more questions. This Terry's law needs to be overturned. I'm not dealing with it anymore. Just fucking send it to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court overturned the law as unconstitutional.
Thank God.
This is when Florida had,
balance.
Checks and balances. Checks and balances. Okay.
God, we've really spiraled out.
But of course,
20 years
that's not, now that the state level government has gotten involved and been told to go fuck themselves, the federal government has to now get involved because somebody's got to save Terri Schiavo's life. We've got to come in and be superheroes, right? God forbid this family that now is 15 fucking years into this.
15 let her go. Years. 27, 37, 39, 44. She's in her 40s. Let her go.
On February 23rd, 2005.
Her muscles have to be atrophied.
Oh, no.
I can't
everything.
imagine.
No, come on.
What are they doing? How could they do that to their child, really?
Catholic?
I guess. I don't know.
On February 23rd, 2005, the Schindlers filed a motion for relief from judgment pending medical evaluations. The Schindlers wanted Schiavo to be tested with an fMRI and given a swallowing therapy called Vital Stim. The motion was accompanied by 33 affidavits from doctors in several specialties, speech-language pathologists and therapists, and a few neuropsychologists, all urging that new tests be undertaken. As if something has changed. It's just that hope that something will show up on the MRI. That's all that they keep doing. Pat Anderson, the family attorney, still held out hope that, quote, Terri might be able to take nourishment orally despite past findings that she is incapable, end quote. Judge Greer formally denied the motion and ordered, quote, the removal of nutrition and hydration from the ward.
God,
and,
how many
quote,
times is this happening to this woman?
I know. He then set a date to have the feeding tube removed at 1 p.m. on Friday, March 18th, 2005. On February 28th, 2005, the Schindlers filed a motion asking for permission to attempt to provide Schiavo with food and water by natural means, which means orally.
Haven't they been doing this the whole time?
Yes, and he denied the second motion on March 8th, saying, quote, it has become clear that the second motion is part and parcel of the previous motion on medical evaluations. The same declarations are being used for both motions, and the motion appears to be an alternative pleading to the previous motion. Both are asking for experimental procedure, end quote. The following day, Greer denied the first motion as well, citing that an affiant doctor for Michael cautioned that fMRI was an experimental procedure that should be conducted in an academic setting because Schiavo was already undergone swallowing tests that failed and because Vital Stim had only been performed on patients who were not in PVS. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, Vital Stim people came to the parents and were like, if you can let us stimulate her, throat, we'll be able to get her to swallow. But they'd only, because it's worked before. But it didn't work on people in a vegetative state.
Right. But even just if you're stimulating it, it's not, the person's brain isn't doing it. Whatever the thing that's stimulating it is doing it. So it's still not her.
It's so fucked up.
Oh my God.
Greer noted that, quote, most of the doctor affidavits submitted are based on their understanding of Schiavo's condition from news reports or video clips they have seen. Many are obviously not aware of the medical exams undertaken for the 2002 trial, end quote. Okay, so following Greer's order on March 18th, 2005, to remove the feeding tube, Republicans in the United States Congress subpoenaed both Michael and Terri Schiavo to testify at a congressional hearing. Terri, who's in a vegetative state.
Yeah, so is someone going to speak on her behalf? Like, I don't get it.
Greer told congressional attorneys, quote, I have no cogent reason why the congressional committee should intervene. This is the judge, end quote. He's, basically like, why are you stepping in my fucking playground? Right? Like, what are you doing over here? That's not what you're supposed to be doing. I'm a judge, motherfucker, right? He also stated that the last-minute action by Congress does not invalidate years of court rulings.
This is insane.
Yeah. So what becomes of this is what's called the Palm Sunday Compromise. Okay, so this was signed on Palm Sunday.
What?
President George W. Bush.
I mean, and here's...
W.
W. So here's the thing. Like, W got involved because he's like, my little brother... Is it little brother or big brother?
Little brother, and it's right to life.
Yeah.
This was a big deal then, right to life.
My little brother, didn't get what he wanted, and I got to step in to help him, and then I got to appease all the evangelical nutjobs.
Everything with George W. Bush was a fucking thing. He wanted a Defense of Marriage Act. We're going to fucking war. And we gotta talk about gay marriage.
So stupid.
Fucking prick. Same thing here. All right. So George W. Bush and the congressional...
What is he doing?
Congressional Republicans anticipated Greer's adverse ruling well before it was delivered and worked on a daily basis to find an alternative means of overturning the legal process by utilizing the authority of the United States Congress. On March 20th, 2005, the Senate, by unanimous consent, passed their version of a relief bill. Since the vote was taken by voice vote, there's no official tally of their voting in favor or opposed.
How shady is that?
Yeah, because there's probably Dems that voted for it too. Probably.
The deals
Soon after the Senate approval, the House of Reps passed an identical version of the bill, S.686, which came to be called the Palm Sunday Compromise, and transferred jurisdiction of the Schiavo case to the federal courts. The bill passed. Why don't you just go to Judge Greer's house and shit on his plate? Just take a giant shit on his plate. That's what you're doing. You're basically saying that this man has no legal precedent, cannot make these decisions.
They're just stepping on. They're like, we are federal power.
Yeah. The bill passed the House on March 20th.
These are the small government people, PS.
Yeah, by the way.
PS.
Yeah. The bill passed the House on March 24th, 2005 at 12:41 a.m. Bush flew to Washington, D.C. He's on Easter vacation over in Texas. He flew in order to sign the bill into law at 1:11 a.m. on Palm Sunday.
That's so gross. This is stupid.
Well, the bill had been proposed by Republican Senators Rick Santorum, remember that douche?
Oh my God.
And Mel Martinez, Florida Senator Mel Martinez, remember him? Oh. It also had the support of Democratic Senator Tom Harkin due to his disability rights concerns in the Schiavo case. Harkin had worked with disability rights groups for years and co-authored the 1990 Americans with Disabilities Act. So these groups who are traditionally, disability groups, they tend to go towards Democratic candidates and they move to the left. But with the Schiavo case, they were with they were standing with the pro-life organizations.
And I understand the Disabilities Act, but isn't there come a point where it's her body? It's just.
According to Marilyn Golden, Harkin's support was necessary for passage of the bill, as any voice opposition by Democrats would have delayed it. So he had to do it so that he could. As in the state courts, all of the Schindler's federal petitions and appeals were denied, and the U.S. Supreme Court declined to grant ceratoria, whatever, effectively ending the Schindler's judicial options.
Oh, okay.
So all the federal courts said the same thing. No,
they're like, okay,
we're not helping you, Schindler's.
We have to
Then they put it to Supreme Court, and Supreme Court said, no, we're not doing that.
Thank God.
Okay, so.
What about today? What would the SCOTUS do?
Oh, no, they would help them.
Yeah.
They would help them.
Can you imagine?
Yeah. The Supreme Court of the United States has nothing else to do but tell a family what they can do with their daughter. Well, they're basically doing that anyway, didn't they? They kind of told all of us what we could do with our uteruses.
Yeah,
on March 24th, 2005, Judge Greer denied a petition for intervention by the Florida Department of Children and Family Services. It's a new way they're trying to get in. And signed an order forbidding the department from taking possession of Teresa Marie Schiavo or removing her from the hospice, and directed, quote, each and every and singular sheriff of the state of Florida to enforce my order, end quote. Like, don't you even fucking play. The order was appealed to the Second District of the Court of Appeals. Oh my God, these appeals! Following day, which resulted in an automatic stay under the law. While the stay was in effect, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement personnel prepared to take custody of Terri Schiavo and transfer her to a local hospital for the reinsertion of the feeding tube. Once Greer was made aware of the stay, he ordered it lifted and all parties stood down. Governor Bush decided to obey the court order despite enormous pressure from the political right. If Bush or the Florida legislature had ignored Greer's order by attempting to remove her from the hospice, a confrontation between the Pinellas Park Police Department and the FDL agents would have ensued. And not to mention, you are shitting all over one of the cornerstones of our democracy, which is the separation of powers. Right. Like, you have that in this, which DeSantis has been doing with the redistricting. My God. He drew the maps himself. Like, you don't put your foot in the legislature. But not to mention that you would have been fucking with that.
This is wild.
It's crazy.
This is wild.
Yeah, Terri Schiavo died at Pinellas Park Hospice on March 31st, 2005. She was 41 years old and had spent 14 years in a vegetative state.
It's too long.
Her autopsy revealed that her brain was severely atrophied and that no treatment could have reversed the brain damage she suffered, which I hope brings the family some sort of comfort. I know that sounds awful, but just so they could see that finally...
Like
please
she
believe
was gone.
that
was gone.
Every single CAT scan showed the same things. Michael and Terry's parents fought about where she should be buried.
Oh my God.
Her parents wanted her buried in Florida. Michael wanted her buried in Pennsylvania, but ultimately she was cremated and her ashes were buried in Florida.
Yeah, I mean, I would say at this point, look, you have your life, you have your child. Give the parents your daughter. You know what I mean?
But that's not what Michael did, which this kind of burns me a little bit, where I'm like, what's up, motherfucker? He made the headstone, and it had, like, her information, her name, her date, birth, whatever. And the last line at the bottom said, I kept my promise.
Ooh, what is it? Like, let it go.
I know, it's really shitty.
Let it go.
Like, her parents, like...
Let it go.
Maybe they have some of her ashes, and we'll never go see her headstone, but, like... Why are you still, like, she's gone now.
That's like...
Yeah,
ooh,
which makes me... You see what I'm saying? Which makes me, like, that's kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
It's gross.
So finally, because this is
is he bitter? Is he pissed it went on so long? And maybe he did want some money and now there's not as much money as he thought he was going to get, or who knows, you know?
Yeah, who knows?
That's really mean. It's mean.
It is mean. But because I go back to the beginning, I'm like, man, he took her to California. He was trying to find these treatments. Like, he was trying to do something. And then this, and I was like, but he you know, it is 14 years of his life.
Well, and he's probably pissed off, like, appeal after appeal. I mean, it's probably a lot of time, a lot of money, and, you know.
And I don't want to, like, be a dick either. But if your daughter's bulimic or your wife is bulimic, you really shouldn't need a doctor to have to tell you that. I know he sued the doctor and was like, you should have been, like, I get the doctor had a responsibility, but also, you don't see that she might have an issue? You don't notice anything? Are we not noticing?
I mean, I guess it depends, because bulimia and anorexia are different, right? So, like, people who are bulimic may not show.
Yeah, they might maintain.
Yeah, they may maintain, or they, you know, and they do it privately, and so, you know, so it might be hard. It might be hard, but maybe close girlfriends or other people might
like
know.
the friend said that.
But then she maybe wouldn't tell her husband. But I feel like if you're living with someone and you're eating with them, like, you would probably notice.
I think so. But
unless she's like binging when he's not there.
Right. And then, like, barely touches dinner or something like that. Okay, so then this thing comes out, let's, like, leak to the press, something called the Schiavo memo.
Oh, I remember this.
The Terri Schiavo case, in March 2005, a talking points memo on the controversy was written by Brian Darling, the legal counsel to Republican Senator Mel Martinez of Florida. The memo suggested the Schiavo case offered, quote, a great political issue, end quote, that would appeal to the party's base and could be used against Senator Bill Nelson, a Democrat from Florida, who was up for re-election in 2006 because he had refused to co-sponsor the bill that became known as the Palm Sunday Compromise. Wow. So basically a memo from inside of a campaign, how to use this case and exploit it for our own political gain and power.
This is the disgustingness that is politics.
Yep. Martinez stated that he had not read the memo before it inadvertently had passed to Iowa Senator Tom Harkin, who was the Democrat that passed it, that was part of that bill, and then it became public knowledge. After the existence of the memo was reported by ABC News and the Washington Post, Senator Majority Leader Bill Frist denounced the memo and asserted that the Republican Party's interest in the case was solely based on moral grounds. Darling, which is so fucking not true, because right now we are 10 years out of, at this point, we're 10 years out of Gingrich. Yeah. And it's already, those seeds have been sown. We know what they're doing at this point. Darling remained silent about his authorship of the memo as commentators from the conservative magazine Weekly Standard and other publications questioned its authenticity. The source of the memo had not been disclosed by either ABC News or the Washington Post. The Washington Post said that it neither implied that the memo originated from a Republican source nor that it was circulated by Republicans, though it did in fact make these assertions when it published the story by reporters Mike Allen and Manuel Rogue Ferranza on the Wire service on March 19, 2005. The authorship claim was removed from publication of the print version. But on April 6, 2005, Darling admitted to writing the memo and resigned his position as legal counsel to Senator Martinez.
Ooh, he wouldn't have resigned today.
Oh, no. Just give him a little job on the side over here.
My God.
Girl.
Wow.
It's fucked me up.
No, it's upsetting. The gravestone, I think, has really upset me more than anything because it's like, it's over. Like, yes, you guys were all angry with each other, but why make this last? And then, again, you're using your wife and your wife's death to take a stab at someone. Like, that's not nice.
And this
it's
is
not
their
nice.
daughter.
It's their
And
daughter.
you have children now. You know what it's like to have a child. And
I don't like it. I don't like how
I don't either.
It's a little low. It's a little dirty.
It's way dirty.
You know?
It's their baby.
Yeah.
I mean,
and they fought for her for all these years. Like, just let it go. Like, you know, have some compassion. Like, and just say it's the end. It's over, and let it go. Not a good look.
I agree.
Well,
now,
that's
if I'm ever in a PVS, take me out.
Yeah, same.
Please, okay.
Same.
Just letting anybody know that.
Ooh.
Hashtag PVS. make sure we can find it so everybody knows. Like, just take me. I don't want to be on that. I don't want anything to do with that.
No.
Listen, I know that my ex-husband, who's like Catholic, would have kept me. He would have done this.
Yeah.
He would have done this.
Well,
and even when I went and had surgery, when was that? October 21? Did I have surgery? Or 2020? Was it 21? Oh shit.
I think it was 2020. Because remember, I think we had surgery at the same time.
Okay, yeah. I even when I was checking in, they're like, "Who would you like us to call if there's like, you know, if we need to?" I said I put my mother's name down, and I called her before the surgery. I was like, "Just so you know, I put your name down, and if something terrible happens, take me off of it. Don't keep me alive."
Oh my God.
I don't know. Yeah.
It's scary.
Well, on that note, it's Friday. Okay.
All right. Well, that's it.
Well, that was fun. We should do Friday recordings.
We should do some more Friday recordings. It's fun.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.